Okay, sir. I will start now. So first of all, I thank Professor Liji Philip from IIT Madras for accepting this talk. And before I hand over the floor to the Professor Liji Philip, I would like to introduce Professor Liji Philip. She is an Institute Chair Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering, IIT Madras, and she is a Fellow of National Academy of Engineers and a Fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry for more than 2 decades. She has been contributing significantly to advancing the knowledge in the area of environmental engineering and for the better of society through the field and industrial-oriented projects. She has conducted high-quality research on the treatment of industrial effluents from highly polluting industries, bioremediation of contaminated soils and groundwater, novel processes for drinking water treatment, and sustainable management of waste. Technologies developed by her have been successfully utilized by several industries and NGOs. She has provided consulting services to a large number of industries in the area of pollution monitoring and control, and reputed international organizations such as Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation utilize her expertise in the area of sanitation. And she has served a member of many expert committees set up by the NGT, Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, and Kerala Pollution Control Board. And she is a member of several high-level committees of TST. She also has executed many socially relevant projects, and sustainable water and waste management projects are implemented in various villages. And she also developed technologies for various village developmental activities. So with this, I will hand over sessions to the Dr. Liji Philip, and she will be talking today on the sustainable water management adopting circular economy concepts. So with this, I request Professor Liji Philip to take over.
Thank you, Professor Sachidhar, for the introduction. And I thank Professor B.S. Murthy, Director IIT Hyderabad, and other faculty members and Sachidhar to give me this opportunity. I'm very happy to talk about the sustainable water management, what we are preaching and working for last more than 2 decades. I'll share my slide.
Yes, please go ahead.
Please.
Okay, hope it is visible.
Yes.
Okay, so today I'll be talking about circular economic concept for sustainable water management. Okay, so this is what we are working on. Hopefully we'll be able to do something. So as all of us know, okay, water is a very precious resource and it is very scarce. Okay, and if you see the distribution of water resources across the globe, okay, we can see that it is not uniformly distributed with respect to the population. If you see Asian countries, the population, okay, population is very high, but only 36% of the water is available there. Whereas, okay, in South America and all, the population is very less, say 6%, but total water availability is 26%. So there is, okay, no uniformity with respect to population, the water distribution, and fresh water constitute only 2.5% of the total water on the earth. And half of the freshwater reserves support around 86% of the population. And okay, many times when we talk about the water, it is a cocktail of many pollutants, and we are hearing the news about a lot of pharmaceutically active compounds and other pollutants like arsenic, fluoride, but not present in the water. Either it is surface water or groundwater. So water scarcity is one of the main problems. Then groundwater contamination by pollutants. of natural and anthropogenic origin. And another major thing is, water resources are contaminated because of indiscriminate discharge of wastewater from domestic and industrial sectors. And as I told, many emerging contaminants are present in the water. So we have to be extremely careful, to protect the scarce resources. And how can we do that one? And not only that one, there are water intensive industries like textile and tanneries. Problem with respect to water availability and treatment of complex wastewater. Here, quality and quantity comes into picture. And rural and peri-urban area, unprotected surface or groundwater for drinking purpose. Most of these sources are contaminated. Then when we talk about rain and groundwater recharge and all, hydrogeology of the locations plays an important role. Then there is significant loss of water in distribution systems, and flood and drought frequencies are increasing due to the climate change effects. Appropriate management strategies for stormwater to augment water resources are lacking. So if you want to count the problems, there are numerous. So there is an urgent need for sustainable management of water resources to provide adequate quantity of good quality water for all. This is quantity and quality are very, very essential. So when we talk about water and sustainability, water is an integral part of sustainable development. We all are talking about sustainable development goals and all the things. And water is directly linked to 3 of the sustainable development goals set up by the United Nations. For example, clean water and sanitation, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production. All these things are coming under the SDGs set up by the United Nations. And when we talk about water and sustainability, circular economy is very, very important. Water systems intersect with all sections of society and industry, and opportunities exist in these interfaces to create additional value by application of circular economy principles. So this is the quote from the white paper by Ellen Marker Foundation. So this is very apt whenever we talk about water and sustainability. And another thing is climate change impact majorly fell through water. So all these things force us to look into the sustainable water management. So when we talk about water, water is needed for agriculture, domestic and industry. And from here we are getting products, wastewater and solid waste. So agricultural runoff, domestic wastewater, industrial effluent, then solid waste from agricultural residue, biosolids, industrial sludge, etc. So what we have to do in a circular economy, waste, consider it as a resource out of its place. So recover resources and put them back for reuse or use. That's what we have to do. So recycle and reuse is very, very essential, as all of you know. And we have only limited resources, so we have to reduce the consumption. But when we talk about recycle and reuse, there is a lot of risk associated with that one, because a lot of residual pollutants may be present. So quality assurance, through monitoring is very essential. So when we talk about monitoring and sensors, Internet of Things and all are coming into picture. So, I told you the water is interconnected with agriculture, industry, and domestic use. So an integrated approach is essential. Building resilience and reduced risk is essential. And compartmentalization does not work. If I tell that I am going to work only on wastewater, it is not going to work. So we have to have an integrated approach. So when we talk about sustainable water management, we have to look into agricultural water supply, its quality and quantity for domestic and industrial use, domestic wastewater treatment, industrial wastewater treatment, water distribution, sensors and actuators, integrated water infrastructure, sustainability, resilience, risk reduction, etc. It is a highly interdisciplinary area. So circular economy for sustainable water. So recently we got a prospective COE from IOE of IIT Madras. So we are planning to look into the water sustainable management of water in a circular economy concept. So you can see that I'm not going into the details of this one. So you have rain, surface water and groundwater treatment. You monitor the quality and all. Then it goes to industry, it goes to domestic purpose, it goes to agriculture, and many other ingredients are added to each thing. And the waste is generated. You treat it back, put it back, and the complete resources are recycled within these 3 compartments. And we have to have systems approach, risk assessment, optimization of the process, energy, material, and life cycle analysis. All these things are needed. So this is what we are looking in as part of our PCOE. And as I told you, it is an interdisciplinary problem. So we have to have advanced materials, and we have to understand the science involved, technology, and we will be developing a lot of products, and it is essential. Then, okay, we have to take it to market. Okay, or if you are developing some technology implementation, social benefit, all these things are needed. So a large group of person skills are needed. So we have another center which involves some 9 institutes with the IIT Madras leading the thing. So this is known as Sutram for Easy Water. It is a COE supported by Department of Science and Technology. So what we are doing here is, I'll quickly go through. So overall water management, we are looking into the sustainable treatment, reuse, and management for efficient, affordable, and synergetic solutions for water. So as an overall thing, okay, we have to look into surface water, runoff, quality, quantity, storage, water treatment, new water, community, point of use, then wastewater treatment, sensor development, domestic water treatment and resource recovery, industrial water treatment and resource recovery, sludge management, trouble-free sewer networks, reliable water distribution networks. Then we have to look into the reliable and good quality, sufficient quantity water supply for drinking, nutrient recovery, biogas recovery, salt management. So all 9 institutes are looking into all these aspects. Okay, we have done significant amount of work in this aspect. So, but today's talk, I'll be majorly concentrating on wastewater treatment. How can we follow this circular economy concept for sustainable water management and wastewater as a case study? So, current wastewater treatment scenario is like this. Okay, so we are generating the wastewater and we are collecting, we are treating and disposing. Okay, reuse and recovery is very, very little. Not okay, though in paper it is there, but in actual practice it is very, very little. And treatment compliances also, most of the places it is not meeting. So okay, mainly only primary and secondary treatments are there. The residual pollutants, nutrients removal, etc. are not taking place at all. So as a result, what is happening? Our water resources are getting contaminated with all this residual pollution because of the discharge of partially treated and untreated wastewater. And if you see the infrastructure available in class 1 cities, we are able to treat around 32% of water and 68% is okay, because we have a capacity gap of 68%. When we come to class 2 cities, okay, the treatment capacity is only 8% and 92% is going untreated. And rural areas, you know that there is no centralized system. Mostly it is on-site sanitation systems. So in class 1 and class 2 cities, okay, even today, okay, only 30% of the water is collected and partially getting treated. Other 70% is just getting out without any treatment. So you can see we have water scarcity and we are discharging the wastewater without any treatment. So whatever the sources we have, everything is getting contaminated. But if you look recovery as an option, we have around 16.6 tg teragrams of nitrogen. That means 16.6 into 10 raised to 6 tons of nitrogen, 3 into 3 million tons of phosphorus and 6.3 million tons of potassium are embedded in wastewater. And recovery from wastewater would offset around 13.4% of the global water demand. And economic gain from recovery of nutrients from wastewater could generate a revenue of around $13.6 billion globally, and it is equivalently around 75% of the projected industrial demand in 2025. Okay, so this much of resources are present in the wastewater, then why are we wasting? So here I have shown the potassium, phosphorus, nitrogen, how much is present in wastewater. Okay, so around 16.6% of the nitrogen, okay, 16.6 teragrams of nitrogen, 3 teragrams, okay, whatever I have put it. So if you recover this one, okay, so much of resources we are saving. So as says under, so what are the research problems we are trying to address? Okay, in wastewater sector, grey water for agricultural and other secondary uses, how can we treat them? Appropriate technologies for recycling, nutrient and energy recovery, how is it possible? Is it possible to recover all the resources? Appropriate technologies for removal of emerging contaminants and residual pollution, sensors and IoT for continuous quality monitoring, sustainability, assessment of processes through LCA, and risk assessment. So these are the things we are looking into. So quickly I will go through some of the things to give an idea. So a few examples of closed loop sanitation systems developed by our group. Okay, because okay, and sustainable water management. Okay, what we do at IIT Madras. So the circular economy concept, because when we treat, we have to start from home. So that's what we thought. So at IIT Madras, okay, you all know the total population is around 15,000 and 3,000 floating population. Projected population is around 20,000, and we consume around 3.2 million liters of water per day, and projected is around 4 mld, and wastewater generated is around 2.8 to 3 mld. So what we are doing is we have a wastewater treatment plant with state-of-the-art treatment technology, with tertiary treatment, with ultrafiltration and ozonation. Okay, and sludge treatment. So, and what we are doing is completely whatever the treated water, okay, we are 100% reusing. We are not even sending a single drop of water, okay, out. So some water we are using to, okay, refill the lake, okay, where a lot of aquatic organisms are there. But in our campus, we have dual pipeline system. So we are using only this treated wastewater for complete toilet flushing, gardening, and the water for air conditioned cooling. So that, okay, many places they may be doing. So still there will be water left over because we are not using it for drinking purpose or anything. So what we are doing is the leftover water, we have a infiltration well. You can see that around 3 meter, okay, sand bed. Through that one, it is getting filtered again. Then we have an infiltration gallery. Through that gallery, it is getting into our lake. And in the lake, we have put a water treatment plant. So that water treatment plant has the coagulation, flocculation, filtration, and we have activated carbon filtration also, so that if any residual pollution is there, everything is getting removed. And this water we are blending with our municipal water supply. So what we are achieving is, okay, a total cost of STP is around 10 crore. Okay, and okay, pipeline and all costed around 4 crores. Okay, but we are saving more than 2.5 crores on water bill itself every year now. Okay, that means, okay, we are able to recover the total cost of the STP in 4 years. Not only that one, we have too much of intangible benefits, because whenever the city has water problem, we in our campus never ever face the thing. So that is, okay, so wastewater treatment plants are not a cost, okay, it is a water generating machine. If you start looking into that one, that way it will be very, very good. So whatever we have done in IIT campus, many people have seen that one and they wanted to put it the same. And even the government has started doing it. Chennai Metro Water and Sewerage Board, okay, planning to recycle the water for domestic supply. Already industries are using the recycled water, you all know. Already 2 numbers of 10 mld plants are constructed. Okay, exactly the same way what we have done in IIT campus. They have constructed 2 plants in Chennai city. and planning to put another 260 MLD recycling system. And we are providing all the technical advice and all the things to the CMW SSB. What I'm trying to tell is, okay, if you make something and show as a successful story, so many people will be following this one, and that's the way we'll be able to convey our sustainable management of water principle. Another thing we are looking into is integrated water management at household level to achieve zero liquid discharge. Is it possible to make a home zero liquid discharge? So we have to have reliable and cost-effective treatment technologies. Okay, they should be socially acceptable, sustainable, less demand on resources, and we have to look closed loop as far as possible. So this is what we are working on. We know that a household per capita water demand is around 150 to 200 liters. So in that 200 liters, is it possible to recycle within the system and supply only 50 liters of fresh water? That means out of 200 liters, you supply only 50 liters of fresh water. Remaining 150 liter you recycle within the house itself. Because drinking, cooking, etc., we cannot compromise on the quality. So here always you supply fresh water, whereas for bathing, laundry, you reuse the water. Whatever is additional needed, you supply the fresh water. But when it comes to non-recyclable purpose like cleaning, gardening, toilet flushing, etc., use only recycled water, because we don't need that very good or drinkable quality water. So this is the principle we are looking into, whether we are able to achieve this one. So what we have done is, first we have looked into the grey water recycling. So in the campus itself, we have looked into different households, how they are, what is the water consumption and what is the grey water generation and all. We have collected all the data. Okay, and you can see that a significant amount of grey water is generated in each house. And if you see, bathing takes around 36% of the total water, toilet flushing 26%, and other washing, gardening, etc. 8%. So this is the average IIT water consumption pattern based upon the survey we have carried out. So when we talk about the grey water recycling and reuse, because grey water recycling, reuse, everybody thinks that it is very, very easy. But we may have to be little bit more careful, because there will be many other emerging contaminants present in the grey water. Because when we collected our water and analyzed, we could see that 78 different organic compounds in the grey water. And 17 compounds registered as fragrances and products. Then we could see pharmaceuticals, preservatives, emulsifiers, surfactants, all these things. So all these compounds are there. So when we talk about the reuse, recycle, we should be aware of this one. Otherwise, we'll be ending up in problem. Without removing this one, if you use the water, then there is a risk. So we have to be extremely careful. So we looked into complete characterization and all. Then what we did is it possible to reuse the water collected from a bathroom and reuse in the bathroom, for bathing purpose itself? So that is what the first system we were looking into. So collect the grey water from bathroom and the wash basin, that's all. Then we looked into various treatment technologies and optimized that one. So this is the flow scheme: grey water, coagulation, flocculation, and disinfection. Then ultrafiltration. So up to here, the water will be suitable for toilet flushing and gardening. Then you may have to give a specified adsorption system if you want to reuse for bathing and other secondary non-potable application, because this is essential to remove the emerging contaminants. So what we have done, so this is the thing: all the water collected, store it, then treat it and supply back. So, and we also did a lot of research modifying the ultrafiltration membrane, etc. The available PES membrane modified with silica and all to increase the hydrophilicity and the recovery. So pollutant rejections and water recovery studies we have conducted pure PES membrane, PES impregnated with silica and DOP silica thing. So we could get much better water recovery and all the things. So this is the research part. Then we also develop some absorption material, because when we talk about these pharmaceutically active compounds, personal care products, etc., okay, many are hydrophobic, some are hydrophilic. So if you take only activated carbon or any of those type of adsorbents, they will be able to remove mostly only hydrophobic compounds. So hydrophilic compounds will be left over. So what we have done, we have tailor-made some adsorbent which is capable of absorbing both hydrophilic and hydrophobic compounds. Okay, so it is graphene oxide activated carbon chitosan type of a material, and it is having very high absorption capacity and all. So you can see that okay, we have looked into different types of emerging contaminants and seen how this composite adsorbent is removing the various pollutants. So this is a pilot scale recycling system. So you have a collection unit, then you have a coagulation, flocculation, ultrafiltration and adsorption unit. And not only that one, we have developed our own sensors, because whenever we do this type of recycling system, unless you assure the quality, okay, it will be causing some sort of a risk. So we were monitoring the quality with respect to color, turbidity, ORP, etc. Okay, and now we are still working on that one, because we could see that some COD is coming in the treated water. So we have modified that one with some biological system followed by coagulation, ultrafiltration. So the load on adsorption is reducing significantly. So you can see that after ultrafiltration itself, your turbidity is 1.21, TSS is 1, COD is less than 12.8, TOC 4.02, okay, and fecal coliform nil, and SDS 2.52. So this SDS and all, okay, if you want to remove, you have to use the adsorbent system. So this is what one thing we have developed. And another thing, same thing, same principle we were looking into, is it possible to recycle the water in a washing machine? Because you know that washing machine uses each cycle around 45 to 60 liters of water. So within that 10 minutes to 12 minutes, if whether we will be able to treat the water and supply back to the washing machine, there will not be any problem for the people to psychologically accept that water, because it is not mixing with the toilet water and all. So we have developed the system, and all the sensors and controls and all the things, and pilot scale also we developed, and we have transferred the technology to some industry. They have made the prototype, but it has not yet come to the market, because they are telling that the market survey, they could see that only Tamil Nadu and one more state is ready to buy it. So the products are not yet started, but this is what we have done. So you can see that the treated water, it is meeting almost similar quality of the drinking water, the tap water. So here also it is simple coagulation, flocculation and coagulation, flocculation, disinfection and ultrafiltration. So you will be able to, what I am trying to tell is, with simple methods you will be able to recover lot of water and make the system sustainable. And another thing we have looked into is zero liquid discharge toilet segregated black water treatment. So here what we are doing is, from the toilet we are not modifying anything. You just put a strainer, separate the solids and liquid, and try it, and the liquid you vacuum distill it. Okay, so you will be getting very good removal, and you get, this is the quality of water after the distillation, vacuum distillation you will be getting very good quality. And you will be having some reject. This one you mix it with the solids and try it. So the solid, whatever you are getting, will be having very, very high nutrient value, and you can see that the removal efficiency is very, very good. So this is the system we have put it in one of our hostels, the toilet and solar panels. Everything is with solar energy, so you don't have to worry about the energy. And this is the tried product you get. This is very rich in nutrients, and there is no pathogens or anything, so we can use it directly as a fertilizer. So this toilet, for example, this is free of any discharge. Whatever the water you are using, you are able to recover, and the solids will be coming out as a fertilizer. So you don't have to give any water, and it is no electricity from the grid is needed, because everything can be operated through the solar power. And you see the elemental analysis of the solid, nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, sulfur, C by N. Okay, very good fertilizer we are getting. So this is another thing we have put, okay, because all the resources will be able to recover. Then another system we have developed is sustainable solar powered wastewater treatment system to improve hygiene and sanitation in schools by adopting water recycling and online quality monitoring, because many schools, okay, have problem with water and many girls are suffering because many schools are having toilet, but many times water will not be available, so they don't want to go to the toilet. So what we wanted to do is develop a reliable, easy to use and simple online treated wastewater quality monitoring system and a treatment system which doesn't need any maintenance or not much maintenance. Okay, so that is what we have done. So we have done a lot of lab scale studies.
We have lost.
Water will go here, then and submerged attached growth biological system, which is an aerobic system, then a filtration system and disinfection. And the way we have operated is here this system will work. The aeration will work only during sunlight, because there is no battery, nothing. So 9 to 4 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. only the aeration will work. Okay, at that time, whatever the residual COD, will be getting removed and ammonia will be getting converted to nitrate. During night time, a part of this wastewater, whatever is not gone to the septic tank, modified septic tank will be coming here. So you have anoxic condition and denitrification will happen. So you will be getting a water free of carbon and nitrogen, then filter it and use it. And we developed our own sensors, to look into the color, turbidity, ORP, etc. Because online sensors available in the market is very, very costly. So we developed our own sensors so that at any time we can monitor the quality and make sure that we are supplying only good quality water. If the quality is not meeting, it will be flushed to the ground. So we didn't stop there. This is the schematic diagram of field scale unit. You have the modified septic tank, submerged attached growth biological filter, then filter feed tank, then your rapid sand filter, your sensor. This sensor will tell whether the treated water is meeting the quality or not. If the quality is met, then the water will be pumped to the overhead tank. If it is not met, it will be going to the drainage system. So that's the way we have done. And the space occupied by this one is only equivalent to a normal septic tank. So we have put two of this one in one in KB school with more than 1,000 students capacity. You can see that the area occupied is just similar to the septic tank. And another one we have put it in Vimala Convent School, Chennai. There also more than 1,000 students are there. So, and we have transferred the technology to some of the private firms also now. And this is very, very simple, and we are able to get the water without much problem. You see the outlet quality, it is meeting all the requirements, all the standards specified by the enforcing agencies. So that is about the system. So now we are also looking into the nutrient recovery and all, because when we do the treatment, many times when we talk about nitrate, phosphate, etc., we try to remove it and throw it away. So is it possible to recover the nitrate and reuse it? So now we are looking into nitrate removal using ion exchange membranes. Here we are using the principle of Donan dialysis. So it's a sort of a reverse osmosis process. Each ion will be having a separate osmotic pressure. With that one we are using. So you can see that the nitrate concentration in the feed will be getting reduced, and the receiver compartment, it will be getting concentrated. So you will be able to concentrate the nitrate and get a concentrated nitrate stream and use it as a fertilizer. Or if you want to denitrify it and remove it, you can do that one. Similarly, we are looking into phosphate, sulfate, etc. And we could see that our membrane is able to concentrate phosphate, nitrate, sulfate, etc. from the receiving stream. Okay, so this can be used as a tertiary treatment system. Also, it can be used as a resource recovery system. So, okay, we are working in this one. We have a collaborative project with EU countries. Then another one we are looking is electrosorption for nitrogen and phosphorus removal and recovery. So we are looking into MOF, metal organic framework. So ion exchange of selective interaction with nitrate or phosphate. In these systems, we are looking into metal organic framework, layered double hydroxide. So these systems, how can we separate? This system should have specific affinity to nitrate and phosphate, otherwise all the anions will be getting removed. So we are looking into those type of a thing. So metal organic framework as capacitors also we are trying. We are using aluminium, iron, zirconium, etc. as the metal ions for this purpose. And phosphorus will be getting removed. So how can we concentrate the phosphorus solution and all the things? That's what we are looking at. Another thing. So we are also making very many waste materials and its value added products. Any substance material which is discarded after its primary use and so negative economic and environment value known as waste material. But we feel that there is no waste material. Everything can be made value added products. So what we are doing is we are collecting different types of agro waste, shell waste, industrial waste, sludge waste, and we are converting that one through conventional pyrolysis or microwave pyrolysis or hydrothermal carbonization, and getting into solids, liquid, with value added products, biochar. We use them as electrodes, then bio oil. So then characterization of all these materials. We have developed many of these materials and our collaborators are also making. So we are looking into the physical properties and using them as adsorbents, catalysis, fuel cells, capacitors, soil conditioners, etc. So this is one such example. Single-use plastic. So you do pyrolysis at 400 degrees centigrade and thermal treatment at 800 degrees centigrade. You get graphene oxide type of a material from the plastic, apart from the bio oil. So we have done all the characterization of that one. Then we have looked into the dye removal. Just using the PWC for dye removal, it was not very great. Yes, it is removing something, but it was not great. So what we have done, we have started using this one as the carbocatalysis process as the carbon material. So PWC proven to be efficient catalyst for activation of peroxy monosulfate for simultaneous degradation of cationic and anionic dye, because this carbon surface will be enhancing the sulfate radical generation when we use this peroxy monosulfate, and it enhances the activation. And we could see that the catalytic efficiency is found 3 times higher than sorption capabilities. So like that we are developing many value added products from the sludge, and we also could see that not only the organic substance, if you mix the inorganic sludge along with the organic sludge, the carbon you are getting is having much better characteristics as an adsorbent or a catalyst supporter. So until now I was talking about research and the urban setting. How can we do the sustainable waste management and resource recovery? Whatever the technology we are developing, we can apply to the villages also, and we should do it. Because unless we get into the village, this one, India will not be progressing as much as we want to. So I'll talk about little bit about the village, this one, another 5 minutes. So if you go for sustainable waste management and resource recovery for clean and healthy village, okay, we can achieve improved cleanliness and hygiene on a sustainable basis, and health improvement will be there, protection of water resources from contamination, and we can achieve increased water availability. I will show the case of one village. So this is what, okay, one of the villages in North Chennai. It is just outskirts of the Chennai city. So what we have done is we have went into the city, the village, trained them, a lot of communication with them, awareness programs, everything we have done. Then we taught them how to segregate the waste and collect it. And we did, okay, a composting plant. Okay, we constructed a composting plant, taught them how to do the composting. The technology we developed at IIT Madras, because this composting takes only 18 to 20 days to get the good compost. And okay, so they had the villagers themselves are doing the composting. We trained some 6 to 10 people. They are doing the composting, and all the biomedical waste, napkins and all, they have an incinerator, and all the inorganic wastes they are sorting out and okay, selling. So around 1/3 of the cost of the entire thing is recovered from the inorganic waste, whatever they are getting, and the compost sale. Nothing great. Okay, many villages are doing. So then what we have done is, okay, this is before implementation of the project. Any village you go, this is what we are seeing. But after implementation of the thing, okay, even now, okay, last 5 years it is going on. This is the status of the village, because they don't want to see even a paper piece in the village. So clean and neat. So, and this is our workers and our supervisor and all. So they do the composting, and they pack it, go to the market and sell it. We get 20 to 25 rupees per kg, and they are earning the money, and that is used for running the system. So that is about solid waste management. But what we did for the liquid waste management, because any village, if you go, you can see that lot of grey water accumulating everywhere, and it is creating a very bad scenario. So what we have done is we have done the survey of entire village and designed the drainage system, because they didn't have any drainage system even for the rainwater collection. So we have done that one. So nothing new. Okay, this is the drainage system. But what we have done in addition to the normal drainage system is we have put another pipeline. You can see that a PVC pipeline. So this PVC pipeline is collecting all the grey water from each and every house in the village. Not only that one, the effluent coming out of the septic tanks. Everything is collected through this PVC pipeline. We call it a small bore system, and the cost is very less because it is in the drain. And whenever rain comes, all the rainwater passes through this one, so it is not getting contaminated, because all the solid waste is managed properly, and all the liquid waste is collected through the closed conduit, so it is not getting mixed. And all the rainwater, we have cleaned the existing pond or lake, and it is going there. So they are storing all the water there, and their groundwater level is improved significantly. And what we are doing with this collected wastewater, okay, so you can see that each house, how they are collecting. Okay, you have a chamber, to that one it is coming, and from that one it is getting into the small box system. So okay, we are the treating, because we cannot put any mechanized treatment system, because it is a village. People are not knowledgeable about the treatment and all. So we have decided to provide a constructed wetland, because now we have a septic tank before the constructed wetland, because initially we assumed that only 100+ houses will be getting connected, but now much more houses got connected. So the constructed wetland alone was not able to take the load. So we have a septic tank, then the constructed wetland. Okay, and the constructed wetland is giving lot of in the proper treatment. And many times when we talk about the village projects and all, the students' first question is, are we going to get good research papers? Are we able to do our research with these projects? Yes, that's why I have put these slides. So with that village project itself, we have done a lot of in-depth research also. We have looked into different matrices for the constructed wetland, which one will be better when we wanted to remove the emerging contaminants and residual pollutants and all. So we have done all type of studies, and we could get good publication. And lot of knowledge which can be implemented in the village. And another thing is, okay, in the village, okay, when we plant something, if you plant something useful, it will be good for the villagers. So most of the time we advise them to use fodder grass. So when we put fodder grass in the constructed wetland, we should know whether these contaminants are getting accumulated in the plant or it is getting destructed. If it is getting accumulated, when the people cut the fodder and give to the cows and all, that pollutant will be entering into the milk. Finally it will come back to us. So we have to be extremely careful. So what we have done is, we have done lot of hydroponic studies apart from the field studies, and looked into how each plant is accumulating these pollutants and where it is getting accumulated and whether it is accumulating to a toxic level. So we have done with different plants like Canna indica, Vetrivel, all type of plants, and looked into where it is getting accumulated and how it is going and all. And we could see that, okay, depending upon the nature of the pollutant, whether it is hydrophilic or hydrophobic or cationic, anionic or non-ionic, okay, the accumulation pattern changes. Hydrophobic compounds, mostly it will be in the roots and all. Okay, and if it is highly hydrophilic, it comes up to leaves. And now we are looking into what type of metabolism is happening in the plants and all. Now what I am trying to tell is, even village projects, okay, we can have good research also. So we have looked into all these things and we have found out the translocation factor. And finally, we could see that the concentration levels of these pollutants are very, very little in the plants, because mostly it is degraded by the microorganisms or bacteria present in the system, and the matrices are absorbing, so not much is getting accumulated, so we don't have to worry much. So you can see that constructed wetland outlet, okay, the COD 29, okay, total nitrogen 5, ammonia nitrogen 4. So I am talking about the field level constructed wetland, whatever I have shown. So this is the performance. So even providing a constructed wetland designed properly and operate properly, you will be able to meet all the discharge standards, and the villagers are using this water for their agriculture purpose. And we also looked into all these antibiotics and all, okay, and you can see that domestic wastewater, how much it is coming, and full scale constructed wetland, the concentration has reduced significantly. Okay, so we looked into the risk also. The risk factor is less than 1. Okay, it is not much risk for using this water in agriculture purpose. So that is one village. Okay, similar work we are doing in another 4 villages, Singaperumal Coil, and we are very thankful to many industries. We got more than 20 crore, okay, grant for implementing these projects in various villages. So coming to the summary of sustainable wastewater management: waste, air resource, not a problem. Practice, reduce, recycle and reuse. Resources are limited. Protect the natural resources and reuse the wastewater. This will significantly reduce the freshwater use. Proper operation and maintenance is essential. Okay, whenever we talk about water management, a wholesome approach is needed. Okay, water management includes waste management also, not only wastewater, solid waste management also. Acknowledgement: I have a lot of collaborators. I didn't mention any, okay, different institute, okay, from our own institute, lot of students and project staff. Whatever I am presenting, it is the work done by them, and we are very fortunate to get funding from various organizations and agencies. So my acknowledgement to them also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Liji. So now the floor is open for the questions. If anyone having any questions, please.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Liji. Wonderful work.
Thank you very much.
Very wonderful presentation, ma'am. Even a non-technical person can understand your reports, ma'am.
Now I thought that, okay, I'll present this on so that anybody can do this stuff. This is not rocket science. Okay, a little bit of understanding and we can do it. So, and Okay, yes, research is also involved. So you don't worry about your publication. You will get definitely publication also. So that is the beauty.
No, and it's very interesting, even you are measuring that different antibiotics and various pharma compounds.
Yeah.
That too at village level.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Because
And-
we don't have enough data because somebody has to generate the data for the future policies and all the things. So we thought that anyway we are working in the village, so put little more effort, and students are ready to do that type of a work. So we looked into those aspects.
It's really. So how to so generally we are using for flushing toilets and recycling purpose, but when it comes to many countries using for drinking purpose, so many times we are not psychologically accepting, though the quality of the water is within the permissible limit. When we look into the as per drinking water standards many times, but how to bring it to a level where it can be used for drinking.
No, absolutely, there is no problem. Okay, because you have all treatment technologies available. Now you take any water from any river, okay, it will be having concentrations of these pollutants much more than whatever the treated water we have. So how are we treating that water for drinking purpose? Exactly same technologies we have to use here. So that's what in IIT Madras we did. Okay, and nobody complained. Professor Murthy knows about it. Okay, because okay, everybody was so happy, and we were blending this water and we are drinking, and nobody had any problem. And we made sure that the quality is met. And I keep analyzing every week all the water samples so that okay, we will not okay, because that's why the continuous monitoring is essential. Once you make sure that the quality is good, people are happy, no complaints. Last 5 years, we didn't get a single complaint. Okay, we are blending, okay, and sometimes only this water we were supplying because during the summertime, we were not getting a single drop from outside. You are familiar with the 2018 drought and all this. So we were using this water. But we are making sure that because we have ultrafiltration, ozonation, then we have activated carbon, pressure sand filter, everything is there. So okay, all these pollutants will be getting removed to the level. And when need comes, all psychological inhibitions will go away.
Yeah, actually, it is drinkable. I mean, we all drank, I remember.
Yeah. So,
It's almost 10 years back, right, Liji? We implemented this in Madras?
2016.
No, 16. Yeah. Okay, 5 years back.
Some countries they are pumping to the ground, and then after that they.
So we are also not directly. We are also not directly drinking because people will not agree. So what I have a filtration well, then a gallery, then the lake. Lake it will be staying for some time, and from the lake we are taking it and treating again and supplying. So that natural treatment is happening for at least 1 to 2 months. Okay, because lake and we increase the lake capacity. So okay, it stays there along with the rainwater, get diluted, stay there, then again pump it back. So it will be much better than the river water or the Porur lake or any lake we are having. So it is the same way. And now the Chennai city, I told you, 2 ton MLD plant they have constructed. Okay, and water is going to one water is going to Porur lake and other one is okay. And the exactly same thing what we did in IIT they are doing. And another 260 MLD is coming because they don't want to have 2018 scenario anymore. And we have conducted a lot of public hearing. And people told that we are ready because now the whatever is coming through the tankers, the quality is so bad. So here at least you will be ensuring some quality.
Yes.
So we are ready to use it for secondary purpose until up to bath bathing, cooking and drinking. Okay, you take okay, RO water or whatever the water available. So that is the thing.
What is your take on between RO and UV? There is a lot of discussion that government says possibly RO should be avoided. Things like that.
So RO water, okay, RO becomes so famous because of the industry push because they wanted to sell their product. If the water doesn't have any problematic pollutants, okay, so you should not go for RO because RO water without mineralization it is not good for health because it will be taking away and it is corrosive in nature, so it will be taking away the minerals. Otherwise, you have to demineralize it again, add mineralize it. So if it is
in your hostels, do you use RO water?
see,
the
we have
students?
put other thing, okay, without RO, microfiltration, then absorption and UV. Okay, but there was lot of hula. Some hostels are using it, but some hostels are not using it because they are used to the RO taste, so they are having. But
The taste is the most crucial thing. No, UV does not give you that. See, we have replaced all the ROs with UV in the hostels, and as usual, there is a lot
Complaints.
of complaints, basically because of the taste.
Yeah,
You know?
but health-wise RO, because any RO whatever is getting in the market, mostly that TDS is only 30 or 40 milligram per liter. That will not be good. Okay, but okay, otherwise you remineralize it. Okay, you add calcium carbonate or any other salt and we bring the TDS to 200, 300 level and supply it. So that's what I tell. Okay, but okay, many places
that becomes more expensive, right?
yeah, it will become more expensive. That is
because you are removing it and re-adding it.
that is one thing. And another thing is, whatever the RO systems available in the market, the recovery is only 30% or 40%. That means if you put 1 liter, only 300 ml or 400 ml you are getting.
That's another problem. Correct.
So much of water we are wasting. When we talk about sustainability, definitely it's a solution. So, yes, some cases, okay, you have all the contaminants and too high at TDS and all, then you have to go. Other places, okay, it is just for sake people are going. Yeah.
Hello, Professor Philip. It's Deb Raja. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Professor, I have a couple of questions. Thank you. First of all, thank you for this very insightful presentation. And of course, I mean, I have also listened to some of your earlier presentations. They're always so interesting and informative. My question is, in IIT, at IIT Madras, you have this. So you have already installed this recirculation system, right? So did you see any kind of biofilm growth in the recirculation line? Because
yeah, yeah, we were very, very particular about that one because I told you I was there in many committees for this recycling and all in the government. So many places, this was the problem because we insist on the housing complexes to recycle the water. And many times, okay, they come and tell that it is not working, or if you store the water for 2-3 days, it is turning black and all. So we were very, very careful. So what we decided is at any time our BOD will not go beyond 2 to 5 milligram per liter. So if the BOD is less than 2 milligram per liter, okay, your biofilm growth will not be happening because there is not sufficient organic matter for the biofilm to grow. Okay, and okay, so that's why we have done the SBR. SBR itself is giving us less than 10 milligram. Then we have ultrafiltration and ozonation. So our BOD levels are very, very low, very low. And now we are insisting to put an activated carbon also. So if any residual is there, that will be getting removed and you are completely disinfecting it. So as a result, we are not getting any biofilm growth. Earlier, when we were having a conventional aerated lagoon with a sand filter and activated carbon, this was a problem. Okay, in 2000 and all, we had that type of a system. There we had the problem. So when we put the new plant, we made sure that our quality will be very good so that this type of a problem will not come.
Actually, what we have has been seen in many past studies also that maybe the carbon content is very less, but even if there is stresses of nutrients, so it may actually promote in the long term the growth of autotrophic microorganisms, which actually will take the dissolved carbon dioxide or something and slowly it grows. But anyways, what I understood that but there is no need to disinfect the recirculation line, right? This is what it is not what you.
So because our system is working last 5-6 years, not a single complaint came so far, and the water color is as clean as tap water. Even if you are not there for 1 week, 2 weeks, in the house, you come back and use the flush also the same color. That means no growth is taking place. So we are maintaining the quality because anytime the BOD goes little higher, we get the problem because immediately, because I'm monitoring the plant personally. So if any time a little bit of this one is there, immediately I alert them. So what we do is, okay, we have a standby chlorination system also. So anytime something goes bad, okay, we add extra chlorine so that the chlorine will be taking care of the organic matter.
Okay, okay, Professor.
Yeah. So we
Thank you
make
so
sure before it is sent to the distribution system that everything is taken care.
Okay.
That type of monitoring is essential. So that's what. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Professor, that's my second and the last question is that for removing micropollutants, you have mentioned that okay, you are using an adsorption method,
Yeah.
right? I mean, now the thing is that so if you're using adsorption, that means those micropollutants still remain in the same form on the surface of the adsorbent. So how do you manage those adsorbent once they are exhausted?
See what we have proposed is, okay, we'll be having this cartridges, okay, just like gas cylinder exchange and all. If somebody feels that we'll tell that this much of quantity of water you can treat. After that one, you bring back the cartridge and we will replace the cartridge. So that is the model we have suggested. Okay, so we have other technologies like advanced technology. We have a pilot scale put in our STP now. We're using pulse power technology. There, within no time, within few minutes, all these micropollutants will be getting completely destructed to carbon dioxide and water. So that type of technologies are there. But household level, if you want to put that on, it will be very, very costly. So we thought that the absorption is very simple and they can replace the adsorbent, and wherever the sunlight facility or whatever is there, okay, they regenerate it and give back the adsorbent.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for your.
Achha, are there any complaints related to coronavirus when you're, giving to this?
And many studies have shown, isn't it, after the treatment, coronavirus will not be existing in the system because a lot of surfactants and all the things are there. They will not be existing. Okay, so we not, and nobody has reported so far coronavirus transfer through water. Okay, it is through respiratory system and air. Okay, so that is not this. And but when COVID started, okay, we increased our chlorination and dechlorination so that okay, everything will be getting, if at all anything is there. Okay, so we were extremely cautious about that. Yeah.
Okay, I think any other questions from anyone? Okay, Professor Lijit, thank you very much for giving a very nice. Okay, Asif. Okay, Asif.
Sorry, I have a question. How often is Hello, Professor. Thank you for the presentation. How often are people measuring disinfection byproducts? So
see, we are not looking into the disinfection byproduct on daily basis, but okay, yes, our students are looking into disinfection byproduct for the research point of view. Okay, so once in a while we analyze the TOC. That's all we do. Okay. So, but we are not bothered about the disinfection byproduct that much. Okay, because okay, when we give it for drinking purpose, okay, we are doing carbon filtration and all. So, if any disinfection byproducts are there, it will be getting removed by the adsorption, activated carbon adsorption. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Liji. Wonderful having you.
Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you very much.
And nice to see you.
Everybody got excited by listening to you. As usual, I listened to you once or twice, but today I got a very comprehensive idea of the great things that are happening at IIT Madras under your leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so no, this is I thought that sustainable. So we will think about something very simple. That's why I have. Sure.
We should try to implement some of them at IIT Hyderabad. I hope Shashi and other team members who are sitting here would take a cue from what Madam is doing. I mean, as she rightly said, everything should start from home. Okay, that's very important. Our research should make sure that we at the campus and the villages nearby get benefited out of all that we are doing. Then we make some social impact on through whatever we are doing. And that's something very important. And she has demonstrated that. Thank you very much, Liji.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah,
once
thank you,
again.
Professor. It was wonderful
you.
thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.